Thomas Nigel Kneale was a British writer known for the Quartermass Experiment. Born in 1922 in Barrow-in-Furness, the son of journalist William Thomas Kneale and Lillian Cooley, his family moving to the Isle of Man in 1928. He studied at St. Ninian's High School, Douglas, and went on to study law, but soon abandoned the profession. During World War II, he tried to enlist, but was not accepted on the basis of his health due to his photophobia. In 1946, he read his own short story live on BBC Radio, and later that year moved to London to study at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. He performed at the Stratford Memorial Theatre, and in 1949 published his first book, Cain and Other Stories, which we shall be reviewing today. The collection won the esteem of writer Elizabeth Bowen, and in 1950 the Somerset Maugham Award. He then devoted himself to writing, first scripts for radio dramas. In 1953 writing The Quartermass Experiment. It was successful, but due to airing live, only 2 episodes of the original production survive. Kneale would work on further radio dramas for the BBC, among them a version of 1984, whose suitability was questioned in Parliament. In 1954, he married BBC screenwriter Judith Kerr, the pair having 2 children. He also wrote for BBC TV plays, one of his successful ones being the 1968 The Year of the Sex Olympics, with a long career of various TV scripts and including work on Halloween Free Season of the Witch. He died in London in 2006. Cain and Other Stories is a mixed collection in more ways than one. Sometimes the man achieves high levels of brilliance, and then others he presents us with rather anemic, unimpressive tales of his native Isle of Man. The title story was very disappointing to me, since from a story called Tomato Cain, one doesn't know what to expect, but a semi-farcical anecdote of a man throwing out tomatoes his neighbour brought to a church harvest feast, and being suspected of having eaten them all, is not it. But then there's Enderby and the Sleeping Beauty, a story of a soldier during World War II wandering into a strange palace in the African desert, in a very grisly parallel of the old fairy tale of Sleeping Beauty. This one reminds me of many of the greats, such as Gerald Kirsch or maybe Marcel Schwab. Meinuk is the story of a family tormented by confusing and destructive supernatural activity in a house they rented, to the utter exasperation of the manager, who finds out some disquieting things about the original construction. A very good one indeed. Lotus for Jamie is the tragic story of a 40-year-old with a child's mind and his first solo excursion unguided into the outside world. Oh, Mirror, Mirror is the story of a girl kept hidden inside her aunt's house, being convinced by her she's extremely hideous, and that everyone outside looks just like her aunt. Jeremy in the Wind is the tale of a young boy convinced the scarecrow is talking to him, and all the manner of horrible things he does because he believes the scarecrow is telling him to. The Photograph is a short story of terror involving a deathly ill boy having his photograph taken, which was narrated wonderfully by Tom Baker on Late Night Story. Chains is another very Kirschian story of the seller of old ancient chains, who sells them to ship captains who wish to use them on boats or men on the cheap. The Terrible Thing I Have Done is a confession from the time the Pharaoh's taste tester comes home scared and in need of confiding the terrible thing he had done. Peck concerns a young girl and her annoyance at the fact she's dead and no one can hear her. Zachary Crebin's Angel is the story of an old man who believes he was visited by an angel, making the entire village crowd into a small cottage to hear the story. The Stocking is the story of a paralyzed 5-year-old, his cot, and the hordes of rats who live in the roof of his house. The Pond is a story of divine horrific retribution concerning a man and his tendency to capture and kill frogs for his amusement. There are many sort of inane stories, but the genre stuff is really good. I don't compare people to Kirsch lightly after all.